Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the very first episode of The Tracy Show, the only podcast that I know of that speaks to third party candidates that are running for office. Today, I have my very first guest, who I have so lovingly called my test subject. I'll let him introduce himself, and you may, sir, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Tracy. For those of you that don't know, my name is David Wetterer. I am the Green Party candidate for Secretary of State, and I am running as a write-in for this election. I'd prefer to be on the ballot, but that's an awful tall task. It costs about $500,000 to get on the ballot statewide in Indiana, or about 50,000 signatures. So we went with the write-in route. Please write me in, and I'll let Tracy take over.
Okay, so before we get started with our interview, I got a whole series of commercials to get out of the way, so let me go ahead and do these. Now, first, I definitely want to invite everyone to like this video. This is our first episode, so we want to get the word out about this podcast. The more likes we get, the more YouTube is likely to suggest this channel. So like this video, share this video, please share this video. And of course, September the 24th at 9:30 a.m., we are having a Beating the Duopoly forum. You can get your tickets for just $15 at tracymediallc.com/r-events. You can also support our new vision for this channel at, of course, tracymediallc.com/r-events. For those of you that want to further support, I'm just going to go down to the next link. And as soon as I get there, let me go here. And I apologize, my screens are just going very slow. You can support me at Patreon. There is the link. Of course, I've already invited you to subscribe. Here's one I've never done. Like us on Facebook. We definitely have a Facebook page. We're definitely trying to get that Facebook page some more likes. And there is our Twitter page. And so now that I've gotten all those commercials out of the way, first question, David, is what office is it that you are running in for?
I am running for Secretary of State. So basically, election integrity specialist.
Well, you already answered my second question, so I was going to say talk about some of the duties of the Secretary of State. So I'll pivot to my next question. So if you don't live in Indiana, Todd Rokita, who we lovingly call Trey, who is not the best Secretary of State, is our current Secretary of State. Is that correct?
No, Todd Rokita is the Attorney General.
He's the Attorney General. Oh my goodness, who's the current Secretary of State?
The current one is Holly Sullivan.
And she is Republican or Democrat?
Yes, she's a Republican that was appointed when her predecessor retired, and she did not win the primary for the Republican Party, so she's not running for re-election.
Okay,
or first-time election.
So since I got that wrong, tell me who's running on both the Democrat and the Republican side.
Yeah, certainly. So on the Republican side, there's Diego Morales. He's 100% Trumper. He won the primary and basically did that by shaking a lot of hands and winning a convention nomination. He did a good job. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the favorite in the race. No one else really has a chance. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. My Democratic opponent, Destiny Wells, she is your state-of-the-art neoliberal warmonger. And she has a lot of experience with NATO, killing people in the name of capitalism overseas, defending it, and defending or portraying it as defending freedom, but really it's just neoliberalism at its finest. And then you have a libertarian candidate, Jeff Maurer. He seems like a decent fella. I don't know too much about him, but he's always been real nice to me. And you have myself, and then there's another write-in candidate, Andrew Straw. He's trying to get a disability party started, much in the same way I am with the Green Party. So,
Okay, so you're running as a write-in candidate, and you alluded to that before. Talk about, because Indiana just, we have to be the special state, to run for office in Indiana as a non-duopoly candidate. Because the libertarians, they've kind of met the criteria to be on the ballot, so I don't think that they have to do that again. But talk about if you are trying to get on the ballot and some of the hinders that come across when doing that.
absolutely. So, there's a whole lot that goes into getting on the ballot. The libertarians have had ballot access for well over 20 years, but each and every party has to earn it every 4 years, so the big guys, Republicans and Democrats, they got to earn it too. All of us have to get 2% of the vote in order to earn ballot access for the next 4 years. Ballot access, which means it's a place on the ballot, basically, for the next 4 years. And anybody that does that gets on, and anyone who does not, does not. You can go individual by individual per race to try to petition to get on the ballot in between those 4 years. But this is the only opportunity for a blanket ballot access opportunity for the entire party for the next 4 years.
And you said that's 2% of the voting population, correct? Not 2% of the 6 million Hoosiers that live in the state.
Correct. That's 2% of the people that actually vote.
Okay, and that would be, and I don't know how many people voted in Indiana's last election. Of course, I wouldn't know that.
The previous time this race was up was in 2018. 2% wound up being just shy of 45,000 votes. So,
Okay.
assuming the same turnout, which I believe it'll be a little bit higher, it has been higher year after year after year, a little bit. I'll need about 50,000 votes in order to earn that 2%.
And is that because what I always get confused is, and you can definitely help me explain this to me. I always get confused on the ballot access, what you're talking about, and going out and gathering signatures. That's where I always get the confusion coming up. What's the difference between those two?
So petitioning is what you're referring to, getting signatures. That is something you can do to earn ballot access. You can do that on an individual participant by candidate basis. But the other way to do it is for the entire party, a blanket ballot access permission on the ballot for all party candidates for the next 4 years, and that's to run a Secretary of State candidate like I am doing right now.
Okay, so when you get 2% of the vote, that means that the next person up won't have to get that 2% because you've already earned it.
Yeah, so we'll be able to run a governor or a senator in the next 2 years, next 4 years, and then a president in 4 years, all without having to petition, is what it comes down to.
And then the petition signature gathering I'm talking about is when you don't make that, or you just want a specific individual.
It depends on who you are.
Okay.
Yeah, even the people that are on the ballot, they do have minimal petitioning requirements for the big offices to be on the ballot. So you do still, for president, for senator, you do still, as a Democrat and Republican, they do still have to collect 500 signatures, but that is a lot less than 50,000. Okay.
Right, but that's 500 per county, right?
No, that's like 500 statewide.
So wait a minute. I'm sorry, because I literally thought you meant 500 per county. So if you're running for president on the Green Party ticket in Indiana, No, let me backtrack that. If you're running as a Democrat in Indiana, you literally only have to get 500 signatures total.
Correct.
Oh my gosh. that that's obviously a problem. Because if you're let's just assume Joe Biden runs again. He's not going to have problems getting 500 signatures. He can literally, and it doesn't say which county you have to get them from. So technically speaking, all you had to do is pay somebody, because you know they're not going to do it. Is to pay somebody, get 500 signatures in Marion County because it's the largest county, easiest place to get 500 signatures. That's it. But since the Green Party isn't on the ballot, it seems to me that that standard is much harder to do. Am I somewhere in the right neighborhood?
Yes. And I do stand corrected. Someone told us in the comments it's actually 500 per congressional
No
district.
district. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, wait a minute, it can't be 500 total. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Because I'm like, wait a minute, it can't be just 500 total because that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me.
Forgive
Okay,
me. Forgive me. I'm rather unfamiliar with my opponent's ballot access requirements. I'm knee deep in my own. So
oh, understand. So, of course, you stated that you decided to go through the route, the right-in option to just avoid all of that.
oh yeah.
Talk about some of the initial challenges. I can think of some, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. What are some of the challenges that you have as a write-in candidate?
So as a write-in, as opposed to being on the ballot, the challenges are huge. First and foremost, you don't get the notoriety that the people on the ballot get. You aren't necessarily included in any of the polls that may or may not be going around. You don't get invited to a lot of things. Although I have been invited to a debate that I hope does materialize at some point, which is nice. Nice for a change. There is, if you go into it further, unless you get, how I'm aiming for 2%, I'm also aiming for 10%. At the 10% level is where you get state-funded primaries for your party. So each candidate that's running, we're all trying to get that 10% again every 4 years. And they, in order to get that, free money, basically, or taxpayer provided money, I should say. It's not free, but it comes from the taxpayers. It's free to the Republicans. It's free to the Democrats, but it's not free to the constituents. So it's not really free. But anyway, that's about it. A lot of people tell me you can't win as a write-in. I like to point to the mayor of Buffalo recently. He won, a local mayoral race as a write-in. There was a lot more things that went into it than, your standard grassroots write-in. There was a lot of different things that happened, but it can happen. And even if it doesn't happen, I can still hit 2%. Only one person can win this race. And there's 4 or 5 parties that are attempting to gain ballot access. So, it's really kind of an open field at this point.
Talk about some of the reasons that you decided to run as Secretary of State and not Attorney General. I got to get it right. I'm sorry. I don't know where I got that confused with Attorney General. I'm like, oh, it's Tarverkey to know. As soon as I said that, I knew it was wrong, but I apologize for that, audience. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Secretary of State is the only office that you can run for and achieve this blanket ballot access. In Indiana. It's the only office. So if I were to run for Attorney General, there wouldn't be the entire ballot access component to my race. So I wouldn't even be running for that at this point. I wouldn't run for that as a write-in, but I would totally run for that as, a person who already had ballot access going in. Maybe we'll see. Maybe I'll run for that next time. But we'll see what happens with this race. So
Okay, and talk about um, some of the. You said that the Secretary of State is basically the gatekeeper of all Indiana elections. With the, I don't even know how to frame this question. With the uprising of the extreme right in terms of challenging ballots, fake electors, you know, leaning heavy on if I don't win, the whole thing is rigged and I won't concede. Talk about those type of things that the Secretary of State does and how those make a difference towards people in their everyday lives.
Yeah, so um, that's a big question. It's two parts, so I'll answer it second part last, actually. So how the Secretary of State can influence people's everyday lives outside of being, the election integrity analysts that they are. The other things they have that they do that they're in charge of are the Department of Motor Vehicles, or the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, as we call it here in Indiana, and then the also in charge of um, the Patent Office and a few other little tiny things. It's really election integrity through and through. And then to answer your first part, um, you know, I view both the Republicans and the Democrats as the radical right, honestly. They're both not improving the livelihood of their constituents. So um, it makes no difference to me, who wins between any additional candidates that may be involved in the race. I see it as a red state, that it's going to come out red in every race, no matter what. And if it does come out blue in Indiana, it's because the blue candidate's incredibly red, and red decided to tolerate him. There's no competition here on a statewide basis. You have your individual districts that can be close competitions depending on how they're gerrymandered every 10 years, but statewide, it's been a red state since the 60s. So
Yeah, we had that little blip when Obama got elected, but I'm like, yeah, but you can't really count that because you had the Democrats that really tried. They were really, you had to give them credit. They were really out there campaigning for him. And then the second time, they were just like, okay, oh well. Um, Also, as a person um, that's obviously going to vote in November, um, one thing I hear about, and I don't want to say third parties, but since the Green Party, you're running as a Green Party candidate, I'm going to consider you a third party candidate for this next question. When I hear people say, oh, well, if you vote third party, and they're talking about presidential, but I'm just going to push it down to the Secretary of State level. When you're voting for a third party candidate, one, you're wasting a vote. And two, it's like you're voting for the opposition. And I always contend, well, I'm going to tell you what I contend after you give your answer. Because I don't like that setup as like, oh, you're wasting your vote. Well, no, I'm not. But again, I said I would be quiet. So,
that's okay, Tracy. I feel the same way. I understand. People tell me that all the time. I used to think the same thing, actually, believe it or not. I was born and indoctrinated a conservative Catholic, and now I'm a recovering Catholic and extreme left winger. So I've been everywhere in between, and I used to be the team blue cheerleader that thought that every time somebody voted green, that it was like a stab in the back to us. And now that I'm a green, yeah, it's a stab in the back to the blue. Yeah, because you guys aren't doing good enough. You guys are messing up, and there's no other way to really put it. The people that vote green, they know what they're doing. Okay, they're smart voters. And more often than not, they're the smartest voters. If you break down polls and stuff, we can go through, but they don't waste their vote, I would say. I mean, if that's what you consider it, voting and participating in the process is not a waste of time, or we wouldn't do it, right? Uh,
Yeah, and I think I asked that question because on other shows I get so tired of defending uh just a moment of openness here. I did not vote for either Biden or Trump. I just wasn't. There was no way. I couldn't. There was nothing anybody could say. Oh, well, you decided to waste your vote. No, I voted for Howie Hawkins. When Bernie did, when you messed up Bernie and you robbed him of the nomination, so I went with my second choice. Well, you might have turned the election. No, first of all, um, the popular vote does not decide presidential elections. It's the Electoral College. And second, that's my vote. If they wanted it, maybe they should do things to earn it. I've always
yeah.
said this, like, you need to, as a mainstream candidate, do something to earn my vote. And if you don't, and until you do, I'm going third party because I literally, when I look at a candidate like your campaign and other campaigns that I know that are going on, I always said the third party candidate always has the best ideas. Always, always. They come up with the best ideas. I'm like, I never thought of that. That's a good idea. It's never a Democrat that says, we should have, I don't know, health care for everybody. It's always,
Yeah.
it was the Green Party that literally said, hey, we need this, advocated for it. And then, of course, Bernie is an independent.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. Like, he is in technical, but we're going to call him an independent for this discussion. But what I'm getting at is it's so hard to convince people to vote for a third party candidate. And as I'm out educating people, like, no, you don't want to vote for Democrat and Republican because you're going to get the same thing. And until you vote different, you won't get anything different, but they fall for that same argument. And I'm trying to figure out what do you say to a voter when they come up with that kind of pushback?
I always tell them to vote smarter, not harder. The first thing I'll do is ask them where they live. Okay. Not for their address, but like for their zip code. Okay. Or city and state. For example, I live here in Indiana, in Indianapolis. Okay. This is a red state and this is a blue city. Okay. We pretty much know who's going to win most of these elections 90% of the time. Okay. Especially on a statewide basis. We know who's going to win the elections 90% of the time. So when you think about how elections actually work, and in a state like Indiana or Illinois, where it's hard blue, or even in a purple state, if your morals really got you grounded and you don't even care about vote smarter, not harder, you're just whatever. You can vote green anywhere. We love it when you vote in purple states, but even if you vote in a blue or red state, there's no reason to get involved in the pettiness of the election. The whole blue, no matter who, is just a garbage chant to get people involved and, indoctrinated into the blue mystique, I guess, for the rest of their lives. And they just carry it on ridiculously enough. It's overblown. But just vote smarter, not harder, because in Indiana, the Reds are going to win on, a statewide basis, and the Blues are only going to win on a local basis. Vote green everywhere you can in Indiana. Okay. We don't even put candidates in elections that we don't see an issue with at least one of the candidates in there, at least as we are currently. We're not running in every office right now. Okay. But we do run for president every year, because just how my race is the ballot access race for Indiana, president is the ballot access race for about 20 or 30 of these states. So we do run a president every single year, or not every single year, every single cycle. And we do, push for them, especially in heavy red or heavy blue states, for people to, give us a vote and give us a chance. If you don't like the policies, you can always go back to red or blue. Your misery is fully refundable. And, you just have to do nothing and you'll keep being miserable. You know, if this is not working for you, if red and blue is not, affecting your life in a positive enough manner, give green a try. Look into us, see what we all stand about and talk about, make sure you're on board with it. But essentially, Bernie Sanders, gets compared a lot in presidential politics for good reason. I consider Bernie Sanders' ideology to be kind of the most right-wing ideology we would even, fathom coming up with here in the Green Party. And then we'd go all the way as far left as you'll let us. So there's a wide array of ideologies to work with here. And, a very specific example of our ideas coming to fruition, I'll tell you about, is back in 2016, Jill Stein ran on full and total student debt cancellation. And she got harangued for it in the media. John Oliver gave her a big to-do on TV, made fun of her and the whole nine. And now look at us 6 years later. Joe Biden is out here forgiving student debt. And granted, it's not all of it, and it should be. And if you're mad about that, vote green, okay? Because that's the only way it's gonna change. That's how these guys do. Is if they talked about student debt enough, they got you to vote for them on it once. They forgave 10,000, 20,000 for some of you. It could have been all of it, but they're gonna sit there and tell you, no, you need to vote blue more. Just to avoid the other team. Even though we're going to do the same thing to you no matter what. Economically at least. And, it's just garbage. It's a garbage argument. It really is. I can break it down if need be, but just vote smarter, not harder, and vote for what you actually want. You might just get it,
Exactly. I've been contending for weeks, and people don't agree with this either, that the failure of the mainstream parties is intentional. I don't think they mean anything that they say. I don't think that they believe anything that they advocate for. They just do the bare minimum and then just hope that people are happy with that. And before I get to my next question, I see people watching, but if you could put some questions in the comment section, I would love to hear your thoughts about this interview. And again, I want to thank David for taking time to do this. I want to talk about your specific campaign and what a campaign date or a campaign, what does your campaign team look like?
So officially, you have a candidate and then you have the campaign manager, and then you can kind of branch out responsibilities however you want. In my campaign, I serve as my own campaign manager. And then I have some volunteers that help out on the side with some of the communications, and I have a treasurer as well. But beyond that, it's very small. I would say 5 people total max. You look at these big parties, their campaign staff is outrageously huge, even for the small offices. There's a lot of money that goes into these seats that get won, and sadly, the people lose every time.
So maybe I should rephrase the question, because you answered the way I asked it. So I'll say it this way: Are you wanting people to volunteer, or are you taking a step back and saying no, your efforts are better concentrated at the local level?
Do I want people to volunteer for my campaign? Absolutely. I could always use volunteers helping out. I'm making phone calls every day to constituents, and there's more than there are people who can call them. So if you have experience on the phone and you want to get involved with a specific campaign, that's where I need the help. But if you're interested in doing something else, like for a future campaign, email us, let us know, and we'll stick you with one of the next campaigns coming up. I feel like campaigns are fun. It's something to do every now and then, but every single day and every single month you can be active and involved at the local level. I would forego a campaign if it meant that I could have really strong, successful chapters in the big cities in this town, in this state. We're not quite there yet. And, that's really where I want to be. So, I'd give it all up for that, but, that's not possible at this point. So we're looking at ballot access, and we're going that route. We're always looking to move forward, not backwards.
Understand. So, unfortunately, I have to talk about my least favorite subject, and I don't like this subject, but you went right to it. Corporations' influence on our elections. Without even looking, I know both parties are taking PAC money. And I know that that PAC money is influencing their decision making. It always has. It always will until we overturn Citizens United. Good luck with the current Supreme Court. But that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day. Talk about, because a lot of times I was approached, moment of openness, I was approached to be a part of a party. And I simply asked the question, how do you all raise money? And the answer that came back to me, oh, well, we don't. And I said, well, that's not really, I know you can't raise millions and millions. I wouldn't expect that. You don't want to take corporate money or dark money or any of those things. But you have to have money for, you know, mailers and buttons and t-shirts and promotional material and press material and those things. And they said, oh no, we use social media. Talk about if you have a fundraiser volunteer. If you don't, talk about your need for one.
Well, we definitely have one. The Green Party doesn't take any of that corporate money. We don't take any PAC money. We don't take any billionaire money. There's a lot of monies we don't take. So, um, we do take money from the people that we represent. We do take money from, people that need us to go out and lobby on their behalf. We don't necessitate that people give us money, but we'll ask. We do it in a much more nice way than we see the emails that are coming in from the other two big parties talking of mass amounts of, junk about the other party and stuff. We try to keep it to the issues, and we try to keep it informative. And at the same time, like, this is why we fundraise, at the end of every email, and, slip in our donation ask at the end there. But, um, and there's lots of ways to keep these campaigns limited on what you spend. I myself know from experience, like, my campaign is pretty broke, but that's because I don't take that kind of money, from the huge corporations and the huge PACs and the quiet money and all that stuff. I don't take any of it. So I don't have, the mailers, which cost an insane amount of money. I don't have any of the swag or any of that. Everything that I've earned is going to support a website, and eventually it'll be for, like, mass texting to remind people to go vote for me, and that's it. Paying for communication. Email is free, so I stick with email a lot. And my own personal time, while I don't consider it free, it's pretty easy to donate some of it every now and then to make some phone calls, so I do that too. But beyond that, we keep it really, really simple. And a lot of people don't realize that we don't have any kind of money really on hand, much at all, ever. A lot of people think the same thing that you're telling me now, that somebody told you, was that, these campaigns and these parties, they already have all this money. Why do they need ours? That's true of the big parties. Okay. That's true of the Libertarian Party, I'll even say, because they have some money somehow. But us, we don't take anything from anybody besides you. And that's because we don't want to be held responsible by anybody besides you. Okay. We don't want Microsoft coming in here and telling us how to legislate. We don't want, other companies coming in here and telling us what to do and how to do it. If we do get in power, there's a few places around the country that we have seen some success. And when we get to those points, we don't have lobbyists on our phone and on our computer and in our ear constantly 24/7 like the other parties do. And it works out well for the people, because we get a lot of stuff done that they want us to do.
Right. And everyone watching, please put your questions in. I don't see anyone asking questions, and I would really love to get your thoughts here. So, just put your question in the comment section, and I'll make sure that I get to it. So, my next question is: there's 92 counties in the state of Indiana. You already have somewhat of a disadvantage because you have under 10 volunteers. How do you get, and you live in Marion County, largest county, but you still can't cross all of Marion County. How do you get the message out to a large amount of Hoosiers?
Any way possible. We have a master list that we keep of all contacts of, people that have given us their contact information. Whether it's at a tabling event or somebody, sends it to us through our website because they saw, Howie Hawkins out there campaigning or something, for example. You know, but we have a lot of people that we can reach out to and contact via email, and we rely on them, honestly, and their social medias and their friends and family. And we'll put out a press release and a statement every now and then. We'll update our social media as well. But it's different. It's kind of low key, I guess, is the best way to put it. It's not, you're not going to see our commercials on TV. You're not going to hear them on the radio. That all requires a whole lot of money that I just don't have.
Understand. So I'm going to also assume that doesn't include door to door candidacy.
We do some door to door canvassing, just depending on the race. My specific race, I'm not doing any.
Okay.
Yeah, my specific race. The reason I decided not to do that is because the goal would have been 60 or 70,000 signatures, and the cost involved would have been over $500,000 in time, energy, and resources. And I considered it all to be a waste for nothing if we didn't hit the goal, and I didn't know if it was even realistic to do that. So, that's kind of why I went into it. Now, if you have a local race, okay, like a city council race or a county council race or something, that's when you'll really see us out there knocking on doors, getting petitions signed. That's only 100 or 200 signatures per office for a city councilman. Like a state representative is about 400 to 600 signatures. State senator, I want to say, is just shy of 1,000 signatures. Those smaller races are more realistic to get on the ballot via the petitioning process than a statewide race, like a secretary of state, a senator, a president, something like that.
Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know how to frame this question either. So you talked about, you send out press releases. Talk about a little bit about how the media really puts third party candidates like yourself at a disadvantage.
Yeah, they ignore us for the most part. I mean, we'll go out there and we'll put out the press release 100 times, and they might read one of them and, like print it and give us a platform. But for the most part, they don't cover us. They don't platform us. They don't want us involved. All the TV stations, all the newspapers, all the communications, everything is owned by billionaires and millionaires and people that, quite honestly, have nothing in common with the normal people in this world. There's psychotic rich people who don't like to share and, have done just fine not sharing their whole lives because people have coddled them their whole lives. But go step out in the real world and see if you can make it last on, Brewster's Million style or something, but it's not going to work.
Understand. What in the campaign, when did you launch your campaign?
April 19th.
Okay, so since April the 19th, what one thing have you learned that's going to propel the Green Party forward?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I try.
What have I learned since I declared that is going to help propel us forward. I've learned that a lot of people answer their phone when there's an unknown phone number calling them.
Okay.
An irrationally large number of people that we call answer the phone. I kid you not. I used to work in a call center, cold calling people during the day, and maybe 8 or 10% would answer the phone. When we do our fundraising list, it's like 60% of the people answer the phone. So that tells me that they want to talk. And when they keep me on the phone or, for 10 minutes asking me questions and chatting me up, they like me and they're going to vote for me. So I guess the thing that I have discovered since I declared is that people in Indiana are more hungry for left-wing politics than I imagined. People in Indiana are tired of the status quo. And people in Indiana are more open-minded than I thought. Those crazy, right-wingers, there's just as many of them as there are of us. The state is mostly conservative independents in the middle, and that's who you're going to get voting most of the time. And, I'm not afraid of those crazy right-wingers. I kind of view the majority of all the politicians here in Indiana as crazy right-wingers, minus a few, but most of the Democrats to me are crazy right-wingers, so, I understand how people can view them as different than each other. Okay. But I challenge those same people to try and view them as the same the way I do. Okay. The same as standard Americans would. Okay. The same in being that no matter who wins, you're always going to lose between those two parties. It doesn't matter. That's why people don't vote anymore, is because apathy, that's great for these political parties that want to stay in power. But I got to go wake people up and let them know not to be apathetic, and they got to show up at the ballot box one of these days for us. But, I'm here for it, and it's a challenge, and someone's got to do it, and that someone's going to be me.
I understand. Great answer. So, conversely, what one thing besides ballot access in Indiana about your campaign would you change?
Mm, I probably would have started sooner. I entered this campaign doing things differently on purpose, because obviously we've done things what seems like the same way for the last however long, 20 years we've been in existence. And obviously we haven't done a good job the last 20 years. So we were trying to do something different. And I thought maybe a later announcement might help. I don't know if it did or not. It's too early to really tell, but there's a lot of work that goes into a campaign like this. And in addition to having more volunteers, which I really can't control, the things I can control, I would have declared sooner.
How much of any time that a candidate enters in office, I was contend they're not by themselves. They have family, they have friends, they have obligations that they're totally giving up to run for office. What have you personally given up to run for this office?
A lot, a whole lot. So first and foremost, I don't really have any family support for this. I was born and raised a conservative Republican and indoctrinated as such in the Catholicism, and my family is all still very much like that. They're all going to vote red no matter who, and some of them are going to vote blue no matter who. They're stuck in their ways, and that's the way it's going to be. Then we got to go talk to other people that aren't voting and tell them to vote to cancel their vote out. That's really what it boils down to. So I haven't really had any help from my family or friends for that matter. But my time has been generously donated by myself My little 3-year-old daughter has donated some of her daddy time to this campaign. And an insane amount of mileage and gas driving all over the state to various events. Those things have been sacrificed, and any kind of reimbursement for anything like gas or mileage, I've just gone ahead and redonated to the cause, just to fold it into the in-kind donations and call it a day. Financially, I've put my own money into this too, so it's all over the place, but yeah, it's all there.
Yeah, and that's the thing that it seems to me, and you just basically said that your support is coming from the local Greens and the city Greens and I don't like. I'll just say the Green Party of Indiana and just cover it that way. But I wonder, and this may be sounding like a strange question, but I'll go ahead and ask it. And this is my second to last question. Come November, when is the election day? November the
8th.
8th. November the 8th. Well, this is not the second to last because I realize I have another question. What is it that you're going to be doing November the 7th to prepare you for November the 8th?
Probably outreach, whether it be emails, texts, phone calls, all the above. The day before an election, it's all about getting people out to vote. So I'll be very busy that day, right in front of the computer and on the phone simultaneously.
Yeah, because I noticed people, and that's another question I didn't ask. When people write your name in, do they have to spell it exactly right, or are they allowing some alterations, assuming that they know what the person means?
Yeah, so the way the law is written, as long as you can understand what the person means, they'll count it, or they're supposed to count it. Um, but that's going to be interpreted 92 different ways in each county. So, please spell it correctly. Please write it down and put it in your wallet or purse and take it with you to the voting booth and, get it out, if you need to. When it comes time to vote, you're allowed to do that. I recommend doing that. But if you misspell it on accident, then, hopefully whatever county you're in, the county clerk will be nice and count it still. The other thing too, while I'm on that note, if you do vote for me, okay, and you go to the Secretary of State's website to count the votes, all right, and you see your county doesn't have any votes recorded for me, reach out to my campaign and let me know. And together, we're going to make sure these counties start counting their write-in votes, because every election the Greens are in, about half these counties don't count write-in votes. And in order to get it corrected and fixed, there has to be a voter in that county who cares enough to call the courthouse and tell them, count my vote no matter what. I don't care who I vote for. You count my vote. It's a legal vote. It's a vote. You count it. You report it. You do it now, or I'm suing. That's what it takes in order to change people's minds. And it works a lot. It doesn't work all the time, but it does work a lot, enough that we keep doing it every single year until all 92 counties are covered.
And then November the 8th at 6 o'clock, when they announce that you've won Secretary of State, what do you say in your in your congratulatory speech, or your I won speech, or I forget what victory? That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, that would be something, wouldn't it? I haven't written that yet. I'm incredibly humble, so I'll wing it at that point in time. But it'll just be a lot of thank yous, and I'm always one of those celebrate the wins, but tomorrow we get back to work kind of a person. So if I'm winning and I'm ahead and it's called and it's election day, you better believe we're going to be enjoying it until midnight that night. But the next day we're getting right back up and getting back out there to work.
And so now here comes my next question. When you assume that office, what is the very first thing you're going to do?
Hire staff, because it can't be done on its own. It's an incredibly small scale of people that are into that kind of a thing. You know, if you go and you put out, you know, a job post for the position, not very many people are going to apply, and even less people are going to be qualified. So the first thing I'll be doing is, you know, soliciting, hiring for staff for sure. And my supporters come first. You know, my campaign team, I'll be looking at them first for jobs. And if they don't want them, then I'll be hiring externally.
Final question, because this is so important to your campaign. Tell people how they can connect to your campaign and make those donations that are critical, which normally this channel doesn't do. But the link is in the description section of how to connect. But I still want David to tell people how to connect with his campaign.
Yeah, thank you so much. So you can go to my website. It's davidwetterer.com. And my name is spelled right here on the screen for you underneath my face. First name, last name.com. Everything you need to know is on that webpage. There's links at the bottom that you can click on and follow my social medias and keep up with every single little thing that happens. I post some, you know, entertaining stuff, and I post some educational stuff, a little of both. But you can donate on my webpage, obviously, davidwetterer.com. Please donate early and often. It won't go unnoticed. You will get a thank you phone call if you donate. So it's a good reason to donate for sure.
And of course, I want to thank David for being my test subject, guinea pig. I'm not sure if I want to call people pigs, but he was brave enough when I said, oh no, it was supposed to be in August, but I said, no, I need to change to September. And you're the first one up. Can you do it? And of course, he was gracious enough to do it. I'm still a little upset that no one posted comments, but that's okay. Thank you, Sarah, for tuning in. Remember, everyone, to please like this video, share this video, subscribe to my page, support me on Patreon, and join me next week when I will have another guest whose name right now I believe it's Jacob is next week, but I'm not 1,000% certain. And remember, if you vote the same way, you're going to get the same thing. Remember the third option. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you all next week. Same time, same channel. Have a great day.